A new year is coming. Today's a special day in the history of St. John. Today we have an annual meeting, and of course it is Transfiguration Sunday. So with this message today, what I would like to do is reflect a little bit on the past year together, and also on the year that is coming up, and take the message from the Transfiguration and use it as a type of scaffolding to work through the various points that I would like to make. Well, the Transfiguration story begins about 6 days before the actual event when the disciples and Jesus walked up a mountain. You see, Jesus was meeting with his disciples, he was teaching them, and at this point, 6 days before that event, he said to his disciples, "I am going to be killed. My life is not much longer. My life will be taken and from the powers that be in Jerusalem." And the disciples were upset, particularly Peter, who just struggled with that. He saw Jesus as the Messiah, to be sure, and he just couldn't accept the fact that the Messiah could be killed. It just didn't fit with him. He didn't fully understand the complete nature of the ministry of peace. And Jesus makes it clear to Peter. He says, "Get behind me, Satan, man. What you are thinking about are things of the flesh. I'm thinking about things of the Spirit. The work that we have to do is dangerous work, it's important work, and it's something that requires your courage and commitment." And to be sure, for each of the disciples, faith was the cornerstone of their life. It established their sense of identity and meaning. And that identity and meaning continues to grow and evolve as they begin to understand the nature of the great shalom. It's something that would take them the rest of their lives to do. And with Jesus and the disciples, there was this rich history, this rich tradition of faith that was passed down from the prophets to Jesus and through the disciples, to be sure. But through Jesus, what we understand is that he takes the best of what is needed today and begins to revise and reform and refresh the whole idea and identity of peace, recognizing that the world is always changing. And to be able to be a disciple, one must be freed from the past, aware of the present, recognizing the great future that does exist. And this builds a bridge to a new future. We at St. John have affirmed the value of organized faith by our very presence here today and throughout the year. And it is essential as we organize and reform and grow in our faith as a collection, a collectivity, that we recognize that our faith, our mission, must be in a state of regular reformation. We must not get stuck. We must let the Spirit work through us to meet our needs and the needs of the world today. Now, Jesus leads his 3 disciples up a mountain. And he leads them up a mountain to say goodbye to the past. The last 12 months at St. John have been an important chapter in our history as we have continued to move through what I'll call a quasi-post-COVID era. Things are always changing, and we are attempting to adapt our ministries to each other and the world, recognizing the unique challenges associated with the pandemic. We've struggled, in a good way, to find the proper balance of all the various ministries of the church, to find a balance between worship and education, member care, facilities, and ministry outreach. Each one of these pieces are essential to the development of our ministry. Each one of them can sometimes feel in conflict, but in truth, all of them are needed for us to be the best representation of God to ourselves and to the world around us. And so we work to become a team that recognizes every member in the congregation is equally important, and every ministry is equally important. None is more important than the other. And it's been a good struggle, I think, overall, as we've attempted to reimagine just what would Jesus have us do. Now, Jesus and the disciples had a hard climb up that mountain that day. And those of us who've hiked up mountains know it's a step-by-step approach. It's something that you focus on what you're doing and the steps you take. You have to have them well ordered. And for our ministry this past few years, the last 2.5 years that I've been here, I've consistently said that we have to build our ministry step by step. We have to be incremental because the world is changing. It's always changing even without COVID, which requires a certain sensitivity always, but it's complicated by the COVID thing that we've been going through. And so we've had to take this step by step. Being willing to try things, being willing to fail, being willing to break things down and try something new. And this is what we have been doing. And as a result of this, we have more people at St. John involved in a variety of ministries than I can even imagine. It's impressive to see so many people involved in the work of St. John. It's no longer just a few that are doing the work. Now, I've got to say that probably our greatest growing element, our greatest growing edge in the past 12 months has probably been in that area of missional outreach. It was something that you very much wanted to see happen when I was called. And it's something we have worked on. We have continued to grow our relationships with CARES, with Lutheran World Relief, with the Neighborhood House. We've built a new ministry, Pathways and Compassion, to visit those who have been abandoned in nursing homes. We're working closer and closer with the Farmington area nonprofits and churches. Our parish house has been under a renovation to establish a new ministry that I'll talk more about later. We had a Christmas peace service that made a real difference in the lives of people who were hurting. The God's Garden continues to evolve and grow and will continue to show a variety of different applications as we move forward this year. And of course, we've worked and built on our relationship with Succoth and with Antioch Lutheran Church. All of this is going on. All of this is happening every week. Now, finally, when Jesus got to the top of the mountain, he was joined by Moses and Elijah. His disciples began to recover from their experience, shocked, amazed, dropping to the ground on their knees. And Jesus comes to them and he touches them and he says, "Be not afraid. Be not afraid. Simply follow me." For us today, we're on our own mountaintop experience, reconfirming who and what we are and why we are here and what God is going to call us to do. Now, with that said, I want to offer a little bit of caution. We're not without challenges here. The fact is, too much of our budget comes from rental income. 20%. On one level, it's good. But when you start growing missionally, it starts to become a different kind of situation. If that revenue and the way it is constructed hampers our ability to do ministry, then we have to look at ourselves and the situation differently. We have, in a sense, outgrown the situation, and we have to work on that. We have a mortgage of over $1 million. That's $8,000 a month. And certainly it creates a space for us to worship. But when we think about outreach, we think about ministry within the church and outside of the church and how it is starting to grow, we recognize that the need for greater levels of financial support is there. We have a vision exhibited in the report that you've received, a vision to share God's love with the world, and in so doing, we have already, in the last 12 months, created a bigger footprint in Farmington Hills than we have had in a long time. More and more people are engaging with our ministry. Now, Jesus and his disciples, they came off the mountain and they were greeted with the challenges of oppression, of hunger and hopelessness, recognizing that the great shalom was the greatest hope to make a difference in the world, and that Jesus had the answers that the disciples would use and follow to give people new hope. We will, in the coming year, explore and refresh and reform every idea of ministry as it is needed. We will not be afraid to change. We will not be afraid to say we're wrong. We will not be afraid to do the things that we need to do to be God's hands and feet in the world as we practice the principles of shalom. We will meet the needs, my friends, of all of our members. We will meet the needs of our members through phone contact, email, face-to-face visits, prayer, visitation, Zoom, fellowship, education, and worship. We will share the peace, and we will let every member of our congregation know how much they are loved and how we will never, ever be alone. We will grow our nursing home visitation ministry called Pathways in Compassion. We have trained a group of people from this church that are starting to engage with the nursing home down the street. And as we get that unfolded and moving forward, which is right, we're right on the edge of it, we will, in the next 12 months, train 60 more churches in the area on the fundamentals of Pathways of Compassion, and we will help plant 60 additional nursing home visitation ministries demonstrating God's compassion and how it can work for people in need. Our footprint from this space will continue to grow. We will communicate with the whole southeastern Michigan area for the powerful need for mission workers to serve adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We will work with the providers to share a message of God's hope and healing that will go out to the entire faith-based community so that people can see more clearly how to become hands and feet of God, working with very special people. We will hopefully open our parish house, creating a personal residence for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, demonstrating a powerful message of commitment to those who are hurting, demonstrating the power of compassion in the neighborhood and beyond. We will not fear. We will listen to the still small voice of God. We are called, we have been called to be agents of peace. We started this journey together 2.5 years. I listened to you. We listen to each other. We are working together. Our work is just beginning. And the potential to do that much more is right within our midst. We will know that we can, through Jesus Christ, make a difference in this world. We won't just talk about it. We will walk it out. With that, can I get an amen? Amen. Amen.